Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley. This is long delayed. I had to be absent from YouTube for a while because I managed to completely shatter my left elbow, so it's only recently been able to start driving again. And thanks for prayers and well wishes from some of the folk out there. You know who you are. Well, I'm back again, I'm able to get out, I'm able to tour England's beautiful parish churches once again. And this is absolutely gorgeous little building. This is the church at Marton in Cheshire. It's just by the A34, so even as I stand here, I can hear the rumble of traffic going past. And this is a 14th century timber church. This is wooden, the whole building. Now, the chancel, in fact, I say the whole building, the chancel is not, because that was replaced, I believe, in the 19th century, and they built a new chancel out of brick. So the nave is basically timber frame, but the rest of this is, but the chancel is brick. But basically, this is a 14th century wooden church. They were incredibly common in Cheshire. There's just a few left. Lower Pever is the biggest, the grandest. I think this is the prettiest. It sits, I say, by the A34. It's easily overlooked, in fact. People zooming from Congleton towards Manchester just go straight past this pretty timber frame building, and when we go outside you'll hear again the roar of the traffic, unfortunately. But let's have a look around. It's absolutely gorgeous. See these medieval features, there's later features as well. So let's have a look around, and good to be back. So here we are, Marton Church. Now, we're in the Cheshire Plain here. It's an area where anciently there was much woodland, but not much stone, and that explains why you get these wooden churches. You can see here the lee of that aisle, because it's just been here for hundreds of years. At the 14th century, these trees are chopped down, they've been altered over time, the building's been changed to some extent, but it's still very much this wooden building. Now, very obvious medieval feature, and a really interesting one, I'll be careful backing up, don't want to break anything again, is the doom. The doom. These are quite, well, in fact, these were ubiquitous in medieval churches. It's a painting of the Last Judgment. The Last Judgment. You can see up there Christ, the judge, and it's this sort of painting that Martin Luther was terrified by as a young man when he thought about his sin. And you've got, on the one hand, you've got Christ up there. Now, because of the wooden nature here, the figure of Christ can't be in the middle. He's got to be on one side. And we've got the Virgin Mary the other side pleading with him, I believe. So it's a very, very medieval painting. And on his right, you've got the resurrection at the bottom, and you've got the saints being raised on the right, and then on the left-hand side, on his left, of course, he is consigning the wicked to hell, and you can just see the flames and the miserable-looking people going to hell there. And obviously it's painted on plaster, and it's underneath is what's called wattle. It's wattle and daub. Wattle is plaited willow, and they've plastered it over and then painted. And of course it wouldn't just be this painting, there would be many more paintings here. Now, a much later painting here, the 17th century, 18th century even, commandment boards. It was said, oh, sorry, I'm just getting reflection of the light on a tea urn there. But here we are. It was required that there be the 10 Commandments set up in every church. And very often in the 18th century, these were combined with paintings of Moses and Aaron. And so we have here Moses, and you can see he's nicely labelled down there, Moses, and the first 4 commandments. And then we've got the font. Oh, little medieval font. It was moved out, actually, in the 19th century and replaced, we'll see later, the 19th century font. But thankfully it was recovered, brought back here, and it's now where it should be, in this beautiful little medieval church. Normally I'd do a circuit, but I think we'll have a look at Aaron next, just to get the commandment boards together. And here is, if you didn't need You don't really need the label. Here it's Aaron, and this is the high priest's vestments in all their glory, with the bells and the pomegranates, etc. You will notice the spellings here. So here we have the sixth commandment, numbered, of course, in the Calvinist Reformed numbering. Thou shalt do no murder. That's, of course, an old spelling of murder. And it's to do with before they standardised English spelling. So this tells us he's quite early. And here we've got the windows, I believe, are just 19th century, but quite nice. And we proceed then up now the north aisle. And you can see these whacking great tree trunks and this wonderful cross bracing. It's so beautiful, really, Marton. I do like Marton. I drive past it more often than I drop in to see it. And you've got this lovely Jacobean pulpit. As I've said before in these videos, it's only in the reign of James I that it becomes mandatory for churches to have pulpits. And so many pulpits date from that time, either replacements, or very often there wasn't a pulpit before. If there was a sermon, it would just be delivered by the priest standing on the chancel steps. Now, all the furnishings here, other than the pulpit and the font, really are Victorian. It's these Victorian pews, bought out of a catalogue. In fact, I've seen the adverts of the catalogue, so well, one of the catalogues. And again, the same can be said of the chancel furnishings, the choir stalls, and we've got a little organ here, sandwich stuck in a corner, and you can see here these arches, and yes, this is the brick chancel. East window is relatively restrained, really. There's these three figures. You've got the burial of Christ, the resurrection of Christ, the ascension of Christ. And that's the only figurative stained glass in the entire building. Not a lot of monuments, again, because it's a wooden building, and a bit difficult to hang monuments on a wooden building. This is the little vestry off the side here, and we can look into it because obviously it's... and in here we've got a model of the church, and this is a good depiction. It's very difficult to get the church from the front because that's where the main road is. And this is, of course, Marton Church in the snow, and you can see... we'll go outside, we'll see, obviously, it for real. But this is... And here's a lovely, lovely picture of an old minister, and this is what a clergyman would wear. It's really before the Oxford movement. You've got those bands, the type that's still worn today by some Presbyterian clergy, and it's a very Protestant outfit. And one gets the impression from this building that it's quite a low church, because there's no rood screen. There would have been a rood screen in the Middle Ages, but that's gone. The chancel is relatively small, and the setup is very much still for preaching. So it is, I think, a very, very lovely building. Very beautiful structure. And you see, it's the structure, really. This church was restored. We've got up here an inscription on these chancel, on these vestry screens. And the church was restored AD 1878 by Martin Barber in memory of Mary Darcy, who departed this life March 25th, 1857, aged 63 years, and of William Darcy, who departed this life in July 25th, 1869, aged 15 years. So we have here these memorial screens. You can just see there part of the ceiling, unfortunately, has come down there. You can just see the battens underneath. We can get up here behind the... It isn't an altar, it's a boarded altar. And you can see here the full length of the building. And you imagine in the Middle Ages we'd be in a wooden chancel, not the current brick one, and that painting would be glowing with light, glowing with colour, rather than faded as is today. And the walls would be painted, and the ceiling, there'd be paint there. And you can see here the nice brass, electric corona, and you've got these cast iron ones in the nave. It's an absolutely gorgeous building, and It's a reminder again, wooden buildings are often seen as primitive. This is why so many of these old Cheshire churches have disappeared, is because, oh, it's just wooden, well, peasants live in wooden cottages, we need something posh and stone. Or brick. But it's a lovely building, a wonderful piece of engineering, and this is the thing about these wooden buildings, is they are very much joined together. You can see here, this is a church, St James and St Paul. Marton Church, I kind of forgotten. Who's it dedicated to now? It's St James and St Paul, as the banner there says. That's to do with the Rose Queen, which is a local summer festival tradition. And again, these rustic traditions that are still remembered, if not practiced. So this is the inside at Marton. It is, I say, it's one of the most gorgeous buildings in the whole of Cheshire. It really is. Now, to some extent, I prefer it myself to Pever. Pever is lovely. Pever's got the box pews, but Pever's big. This is little. This is intimate. This is the kind of church that there used to be dozens of them scattered around the Cheshire Plain, these tiny little wooden buildings. All over England, in fact, you'd find these wooden churches. You can see the carved columns, octagonal carved wooden columns, and then the cross bracing in the aisles. And it's so beautiful. Really lovely building, lovely building. Well, let's go outside now. We'll have a look at the outside. And I apologise for the traffic noise. I can do nothing about the traffic noise. It's Monday afternoon. What do you expect? Actually, I said go outside. I've forgotten briefly that there's a tower here. So these doors don't go straight outside. They go into the tower. So let's go into the tower, because the tower is interesting. The tower is interesting. So I'll just close the door behind me. You can see here we've got light, and there's a number of reasons why it's interesting. One of them is the knights, the memorials, the knights. Just drop my hat down there. The knights. These two knights. Now they are, as you can see, they're 14th century, about the same date as the church. And their memorials are in here. Why? Not sure. But need to put them somewhere. They look like they've been out in the churchyard for a while, and they've been brought in. So, and this is the Victorian font, which is it's wooden with a stone base. It was stolen once, and the person who pinched it must have given themselves a rupture or something, because they dropped it in a field not very far away. Completely pointless and stupid stealing it, and part of me just kind of hope he did give himself a rupture. And here we have the other knight. You can see he's, again, very eroded, so he's clearly been outside. But in the Middle Ages, they would have been in the building, and they would have been painted. They've been painted. There's another gravestone there, partially obscured. Here we've got, another thing to the tower is the actual structure of the tower. You've got these lovely, look at that gorgeous, gorgeous woodwork. And because of course, you've got bells up there, so you've got quite a solid framework. And so this is attached to the front, but it's not structurally it's independent. And that, of course, is because ring the bells, there's a lot of force going on up there, and you need to be careful. Now, above the door we have medieval stained glass. I'm not sure it's very obvious on the camera, but on the video, but that is medieval stained glass, again, 14th century. And it tells us that the windows originally would have, at least some of them, would have been full of stained glass. And so what we see today is, as with any medieval church, any historic church, what we see today is a stage in the building's history. It wouldn't have looked like this originally, internally, but the bare woodwork is, quite probably would have been painted white, in fact, the woodwork. It's only more recently that the idea of showing off the woodwork has become such a big thing. So, and carry on around the outside now. So here we are outside at Marton. Now, I'd prefer to be nearer the front of the church, but that's where the road is. So, speaking to camera, it's a bit easier for me to be at this end, at the east end. I've got the brick chancel behind me, so you can basically see the woodwork of the church, and this little wooden spire, it's covered in shingles, wooden tiles as it were. So it's all a wooden building. It's set on a hill, so it can be seen for miles. And of course it's all painted white. Would have originally been painted white, quite probably because, again, what you're trying to do is the impression of stone, and not the local Cheshire sandstone, but this white stone. You want it to be white and to be like a city on a hill that cannot be hid. It's a lovely building. So we'll have a look around the outside and I'll point out some of the salient features. So again, first of all, we're starting at the east end. Unusually, normally I'd start at the west, but owing to where the road is, you can just see there's the churchyard cross. We're on the south side, which is the entrance side. Traditionally, you can see there's a porch that's not used anymore. The entrance today is the tower. Here comes Salford Van Hire past the building. You can see just how close the main road is to the front door. But actually that's okay. It's wooden. Wood is flexible, so it doesn't shake the foundations and affect it quite the way it would a stone or brick building. They built very well. You can see the roof is, other than the shingles on the spire, the roof is stone. It's big stone slabs, but the timbers here are designed to take it. It's not like up the road where we got this little wooden church. Siddington has done a video on Siddington already, and Siddington Church, they originally was thatch, and they decided to put these great big stone tiles on, and it really did no good whatsoever, and it had to be encased in brick. But here we are. This is the north side. Again, the rumble of the traffic. I can't do anything about the roar of the traffic. And you can see the simple woodwork here. This is the woodwork of the vestries, and that's much more modern woodwork. This is 19th century. It's to do with concealing really that brick chancel. And then we've got the woodwork here, and again it's been renewed externally, the woodwork of the north aisle. And big graveyard, of course. A 14th century church, serves quite an area. And here's the tower stroke porch where we saw the knights and such like. And again, I can't do anything about the traffic noise because here we are. So there's the porch, and then up to the spire and the weathercock. Weather vanes on churches are called weathercocks. It's of course for cockerel, and it's a traditional form that they're shaped like a cockerel or a rooster. And so we go past here. There's a lovely little porch and that belfry. You can find in some parts of the country belfries like this that are basically independent of the church. There are not very many of them, but there's a small number. Rattle, rattle, rattle. You can see here and these stones laid flat like that. This is a tradition in this area. And there we're back to the porch and the south side of the church. And it's such a beautiful little building. And you can just see over there's the cloud, and Malcop is not very far away. And Congleton is over there. And so as you come up from Congleton, you're greeted with this lovely building on the hill. So there we are. This is the south side. Let's just we'll say some parting words and end the video. Yeah. And so there we have it, St James and St Paul Marton. Gorgeous little wooden Cheshire church, and really the ideal little Cheshire wooden church. Well, thank you for watching, and it's good to be able to make these videos again after months and months of my arm being non-working at all. So thanks for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.